Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by Las Vegas Motor Speedway, America's racing showplace.
At that point in time, the France family would move in with the Hawkins family, my mother's family in Winston, and they all lived together in the same house. But racing will never work on asphalt because all they do is race on dirt. So with a lot of skepticism, they went there and raced on pavement. And it seemed like the pavement thing worked out pretty good. Alvin Hawkins and Bill France were out promoting the races, but the ladies were behind it doing all the work. You know.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
Well, Gray, first of all, what is your earliest memory of Bowman Gray Stadium?
Golly, we're going to go way back in time. Yeah. That's when the Fred Flintstone days were there with their pedal cars. No, it's not quite that bad, but gosh, I can remember being, I was in the single digits of age, maybe 7, 8, 9 years old. And my grandfather had, several daughters, and everybody in the family sold tickets. Well, all of us grandkids sold programs in the stands. And at that point in time, I had older cousins, and the older cousins always sold the programs at the gates. And they gave me a handful of programs, told me to walk through the stands and sell them. Well, I wasn't doing very good. I think I got 2 cents a program for every one I sold, and we were going through there, and I just wasn't doing any good. And this fellow said, "Young man, you selling any?" I said, "No, sir, I just ain't selling." He said, "Well, just stop and think about it." He says, "Everybody buys one when they're in the gate, so they're selling them all at the gate, and they just pushed you out to where you ain't going to sell any so they could get all the sales." And I thought, well, daggone, he ain't right. So I went up and tried to bully my way in outside the gate before they started coming in the gate to get people. So that didn't go well with the cousins at that time. So, on a good night, you'd make 10 cents, So, but that's probably my earliest memories. Yeah, that's been a long time ago, though.
Did you get better at selling programs?
I learned to move outside the gate real quick. Let's put it that way. So sometimes you don't let the people come to them, you go to the people.
And what kind of commission did you get?
It was like 2 cents a program. So, I learned real quick, you go to where the people are and, don't wait them to come to you. And so that was my first lesson in promoting right there.
Now, your name, Gray. That's not an accident.
Well, that's no relation to Bowman Gray. Actually, it's not. It's not. My mother's college roommate, her name was Gray. So she named me Gray after that. A lot of people think it's the correlation, but I can sit there and say, yes, absolutely it is, but it actually is not.
Gray, it would be so much better a story.
Okay, it is. It is. I'm going to go to where the people are again. It is. It's Gray. And the Vincent, my first name's Vincent, and that's Vince Lombardi, and Gray, Bowman Gray. So
now, your maternal grandfather was Alvin Hawkins.
That's correct.
Okay. How did he become involved in racing?
He was born in Spartanburg. I think he was born in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He was always been, messing with cars and those type things back in those days. And he got, and I don't know the whole story, how they kind of got together, but, he crossed paths with a Bill France Sr. And I think Mr. France was in Maryland at that time. And he moved down south, progressed south where it got warmer. And they got together here in the South, and then they started promoting races on dirt. At that time, they were probably running 7 or 8, dirt tracks in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, the whole territory. They were promoting these races. And I know this because it's kind of another story of how things go, is they used to buy rock salt, and you put rock salt in water, makes water wetter. And you put it in dirt, and it holds moisture in the dirt. So they would buy a train carload of rock salt and they'd keep it back down behind the house. This is another story how I learned what they got involved, because they had this rock salt down there. And this is off track, but it's kind of a unique little story. My grandfather, he was an alcoholic. He drank. And on Saturdays when I was a little small kid, after I made my 10 cent selling programs, I rode around with Grandpa in a pickup truck. Well, one of the first places we went was the coal and ice store. They sold ice and coal. They sell these huge brown paper bags of ice. He'd buy a 100-pound bag of ice. Then we'd stop by a case of beer, put the beer in the ice, and when he'd stop, he'd snap, and I'd crawl out the window, get him a beer, and come back in the car. Well, the ice...
While it was moving?
No. Well, it slowed down sometimes. Let's put it that way. And
again, that would make for a much better story.
Well, it depends on how the drivers were on Saturday night. If they were kind of ill, he didn't slow down a whole lot. He just sort of kept moving as the conversations went on. So, but he had the ice, and then they had the rock salt from the tracks. And then on Sundays, we all sat around and made ice cream with the rock salt and the leftover ice, listened to MRN radio. And that was our Sundays. Every Sunday, that's what we did. We'd go and we'd use the leftover ice, the rock salt, and all of us grandkids took turns doing the churns on the ice cream. So that was some good memories there. That was good.
I'm still trying to focus on that line you said that rock salt makes water wetter.
Water wetter. That's what they say. And see, that's what it does when you put it in the ice cream. It melts the ice and makes the water wetter, and it does. Look it up. Okay.
I'm not buying any beach land in Kansas or anything else.
Okay. That's fine. I'm not a chemist. I don't know.
I feel like you're asking me to go find a long wait in the garage.
No, that's okay. It's all good. But anyway, back, and my grandfather got hooked up with the Bill France story. They got together and they started promoting. At that point in time, the France family would move in with the Hawkins family, my mother's family in Winston, and they all lived together in the same house.
Wow.
So she basically grew up with Billy France. She always called him Billy. Bill France and Jim France. Jim France was much younger than them, but he was still there. And, she has a story I remember telling. She used to change Jim France's diapers because he was the baby of the family and everybody babied him at that point in time. So, but now he's 79. So that's a long time ago. So, but anyway, he got involved with racing. And at point things progressed, and then the Bowman Gray piece of the puzzle come about. Is Bowman Gray Stadium was built in in the 30s actually. I think it was under the Works Progress Authority of after coming out of the recession, and the R.J. Reynolds family, the Bowman Gray piece of the puzzle came in. They gave them so much money and so much land to get this project started, and that's how Bowman Gray was built. It was built as a dirt track, a cinder track. They ran trotting horses around it. And then a gentleman came in and started running the midget cars on it. He ran a couple of races there. He worked a deal with the city that if they would pave it, then he would pay the city back as he made money each race. He would pay it back. Well, I think after the first race, he kind of took the money and ran. And then the city was stuck with this bill, for this paving. So they just said, well, let's call Hawkins in France and see if they'll come run some races here because they were the big promoters in the area. And the story was told, I don't know how it is, but it sounds like a good story, is that, France and Hawkins said, okay, we'll go try it, but racing will never work on asphalt because all they do is race on dirt. So with a lot of skepticism, they went there and raced on pavement. And it seemed like the pavement thing worked out pretty good in the long run. So
now you said that they were promoting elsewhere in the area. Your grandfather and Mr. France.
Correct.
Where were they promoting it?
They had some races. There was a track, Peace Haven.
Okay.
Track in Greensboro. One in Greensboro. There was a track in Raleigh. There was a track in Charlotte, the fairgrounds. That was just some that I know of. I think they had some like in Virginia, and they helped Enoch Staley up at the Wilkesboro track when it was still dirt in those days. They bought a piece of land in Fayetteville. They bought the land, built the track, ran one race, and paid for the track. And some kids broke in there the following week, and one of them got killed, and they shut down and never ran another race.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that land just sat there, and that track just grew up. I think they did some in Orange County. I think so they were all over the place at that time, and they started doing those races. Then they went to the pavement, which will never work, but it took off. They did the pavement, and then they just kept going from there. France wanted to do bigger and better things. So at that point in time, my understanding was Mr. France would move south to Florida to the speed trials on the beach. He went down there, started doing that. And then, it was NASCAR was still pretty loosely at that time going in a lot of different directions. So Mr. France gathered the group together. You see at the Streamline Hotel down there. And my grandfather was one of those people at the head table.
Well, I was going to ask about that because not only was he at the head table, he was really close to Bill Sr. I think he was separated only by one person.
Yeah, he was very close. They were very close. And not only that, I think the strongest part of that whole relationship would be Annie France and Heloise Hawkins, because they're the ones that
grandmother,
my grandmother Eloise, they're the ones that kept the families together. And, it was one of those type things where, Alvin and Alvin Hawkins and Bill France were out promoting the races, but the ladies were behind it doing all the work. They were doing the tickets, and they were selling the tickets, and they were counting the money, and they were paying people. They were the front men, but the ladies behind it were probably doing all the work. Actually,
I'm gonna check something real quick. So what? I'm trying to get situated so this chair won't squeak.
Change chairs, whatever.
No, that's all right. Now, what was the line of succession in your family running Bowman Gray?
At that point in time, it was all of the France family and then all of the Hawkins family. I think originally it started out, there was like 6 people involved. There was Bill France Sr., Annie France, and maybe Bill Jr., and then on this end, we had Alvin Hawkins, Heloise Hawkins, and Joe Hawkins, which was my uncle at that point in time. And then when my grandfather died, I think in the 70s, I was a little small fella in the 70s. The France family kind of gave it to the Hawkins family, says, here, you take this and keep this running. And at that point in time, Joe ran it for years with my grandmother, Eloise Hawkins. Then when Joe passed away, I had another uncle,
Joe
Hawkins.
Okay.
Hawkins. He was the first of 5 kids, I believe, in the family. And then when he passed away, my other uncle, Dale, and my aunt, Johnny Hawkins Penless, they kind of ran it with Eloise for a while. And then when Eloise, my grandmother, passed away, Dale and them had it. And then I'd always been working there. And then I kind of stepped up and took a little more of a role at that point in time. Dale was an administrator at the hospital. He kind of retired from that. He had some health issues, so I kind of stepped up to the front lines, to the pointy end of the stick, as they say. And so that was probably back in 2019, 25 years ago, roughly. And so I just kind of did the progression. All of the family did a tour of duty there. It's kind of like growing up on a farm. Everybody works on the farm. Some are smart enough to go away and get a real job, and some of us just hang around. So I guess I'm the one that just hung around.
Now, your kids worked there, didn't they?
They did. My kids have worked there. Wife Pam's worked there forever. All my kids sell tickets, so we all did that, and it was kind of it was a good family thing. But we still have cousins working there and their kids working there, so we still have the 4th generations working there. But my kids kind of got, we never went on vacation. We never went anywhere. We never did anything. We were in lawsuits once in a while. You come home and the answer machine is just filled to the top with messages and cussing and fussing. And my middle daughter, Emma's pretty verbal. She says, "Can I please call them back?" I said, "No, Emma, don't call them back," because she would light into them like a wildcat. I said, "Just let it go. So, but I mean, racing's one of those things, people are passionate about it. And at this level, there's no money in it. Okay. So they do it because of the love of the sport. And when things just don't go right, they're looking for a way to vent. And I guess as I said, the pointy end of the stick, and I'm the vent guy. Go vent it, Gray. And everybody doesn't see it as that way. Is, when they say, I'm going to do this, I say, I got broad shoulders laid on me, So, and that's what I do. Listen. So that's kind of how I got to where I'm at, I guess, you could say.